So how did a small crew with nearly no funding end up filming cheetahs in the South African bush and turn it into a documentary that has now passed 600,000 views? Today, I'm taking you behind the scenes of Wild Connection, one of the most meaningful and riskiest projects I've ever made. You'll see how we filmed these animals up close, how we navigated the chaos of wildlife filmmaking, and everything it took to pull this project off. We had one shot to make this film a reality. If you haven't seen Wild Connection yet, go check it out, or finish this video first and then watch it after. You'll not only see how we filmed cheetahs up close, but also what it takes to pull off a wildlife documentary. For anyone new here, my name is Jackson Krychek. I am a 24-year-old documentary filmmaker based in Colorado, and I love telling stories that push me outside of my comfort zone, and this project definitely did that. This project all started when I was sent an Instagram reel of Nick Clear, and I became fascinated by his unique relationship with cheetahs and other wildlife. Nick is a South African wildlife guide, conservationist, and photographer who has led safaris across Africa and many other parts of the world. I was fascinated by his ability to form deep, respectful bonds with the natural world. It was clear he interacted with animals in a way that felt different from anything else I'd ever seen.
Can I come sit with you, boy? Hey? Can I come sit here with you? Hello, my boy. Hello, my boy. Oh, hello, boy. Yeah, that's right. Oh, it's just me. It's just me, boy.
I felt compelled to explore this connection further. I wanted to understand how and why he had these relationships with these cheetahs. So I cold emailed him, hoping he'd be open to a conversation. Thankfully, he was more than willing. He met with me on Zoom, welcomed me into his world, and agreed to let me create a short film about his relationship with these cheetahs. So no donors or sponsors, I booked my ticket because I knew I had to tell the story no matter what. I also knew I couldn't do it alone, so my friend Isaac from Colorado and my friend Ricardo, who was in South Africa at the time, joined the project as a DP. I'll be honest, I was terrified. I had only 4.5 days on the schedule to shoot the entire film, and there were so many unpredictable factors that could derail everything. What if it rained nonstop? What if the wildlife didn't cooperate? What if someone got hurt or sick? There were many sleepless nights trying to wrap my head around how am I going to pull this off. And this is where most people would have walked away for good reason, but our team decided to lean in. And so Isaac and I literally celebrated New Year's on the plane. We met up with Ricardo in Johannesburg and loaded our gear into a tiny rental car, and after a couple of days, we headed straight for Tiger Canyon, which is a private game reserve where Nick had spent years forming relationships with these cheetahs. I remember pulling up to the gate, meeting Nick, and immediately seeing a cheetah resting in the bush. I was mesmerized. It's hard to describe what it feels like to be so close to such a powerful, majestic animal. And in that moment, I realized this was going to be one heck of an adventure. After a night of prepping for our first early morning, we jumped right into filming. And for the next 4.5 days, we woke up at 4:30 a.m., shot for 5 hours, took a break and charged our gear, then shot for another 5 hours, then charged our gear, unloaded footage, and planned for the next morning. Our goal was simple: to document Nick's relationship with these cheetahs and piece the story together as authentically as possible. We had a planned script and did our best to follow it, but we often had to pivot depending on several factors. The challenge was that we didn't know how the wildlife or the weather would behave. Each day we were completely dependent on the cheetahs' routines and behavior, but thankfully everything aligned. The weather held, the wildlife cooperated, and we captured moments that felt truly magical. I need to preface that we never touched any of the cheetahs. Filming wildlife comes with responsibility. Every decision that we made was guided by the cheetah's comfort and not the shot. We always respected their boundaries in space, and Nick guided us and taught us every step of the way, helping us read the cheetah's behavior and then respond appropriately. Everything you see in the doc came from patience, not interference, and the film I wanted to create was always meant to be authentic. With that in mind, there were countless unforgettable moments, but one of the most powerful was filming Nick walking with Mara through the bush. The way she moved around him was surreal. She was calm, powerful, and trusting, and we were all breathless. In that moment, every stress and fear leading up to that project felt worth it. We got to really capture a moment and not just some pretty B-roll. I also remember when Mara and the cubs were feeding on a boar and we just sat there with them, documenting the moment. We all felt so accepted by Mara and the cubs, as if we were just part of the family. And some people ask, was I ever afraid of the cheetahs while being so close? To be honest, the answer is no. Sometimes you felt uneasy, but that's mostly just the shock of being in such close proximity to such an exotic animal. Those were the moments that reminded me why I tell stories like this. Documentary filmmaking has the power to truly open up doors to different worlds and experiences that make this tough art form so worth it. And so after each day, our team of 3 would spend hours late into the evening and night working through the story and figuring out what we were missing. Once we had a solid picture of Nick and Christina's story and spent a couple of days observing, we decided to film interviews, which was its own challenge. We had no lights and very minimal gear, and I still cringe when I look at the photos of our setup. It kind of looked like it was something out of a student film. But despite all that, the interviews ended up looking really natural, which was something that was really important to me. Throughout the process, I had to make countless in-the-moment decisions. Should the characters talk directly to me or to the camera? Should the story lean more on the wildlife or Nick's personal journey? What moment should I ultimately focus on? These questions seem small, but they were tough calls in the moment that would ultimately shape the narrative. Now I have to be honest, my biggest mistake and lesson learned was not getting a few filler scenes of Nick and Christina outside of being in the bush. I got plenty of footage of them interacting with each other and the wildlife. However, as I do more and more docs, I found that I enjoy scenes that gives a little bit more setup to what follows. I should have gotten footage of the 2 of them getting ready to head out to the bush or relaxing around a fire after a long day of work. Sometimes I would catch myself missing the small details that would ultimately round out the story better. So this was an important lesson I've applied to the films I'm working on now. Not every scene has to be a big, shocking moment. These in-between scenes would have made the world richer and more detailed. But even though we were tired and stressed, our team gave everything we had to bring this story to life. And so after our time at Tiger Canyon, we said our goodbyes and headed south to Cape Town to decompress and celebrate what we had just pulled off. Then came the hardest part. The edit. We worked draft after draft, week after week, trying to understand the tone of the story. And then I eventually realized that my job wasn't to push a specific narrative, but to express the unique perspectives Nick and Christina shared and let audience sit with it themselves. This film was about exploring how humans are connected to the natural world in ways we might not have always considered. This is just one strong example of that, and it is what I ultimately enjoyed exploring as a filmmaker. After months and months of editing and shaping the version that you see today, I decided to submit the film to film festivals. One of my dream festivals was the Hawaii International Film Festival, which has a big emphasis on conservation, and to my surprise, we got accepted. This was our world premiere, and it became one of the most meaningful experiences of my career. Getting to celebrate such an ambitious, risky project in Hawaii was incredibly special. I distinctly remember sitting in my seat at the festival and seeing Wild Connection on the big screen for the first time. It's a feeling you can only understand if you've been pursuing an ambitious project for such a long time. That project was kind of just a miracle in itself. I was so proud of our small team and what we've accomplished. And then the film went on to premiere at several other festivals and even won Best Score.
All right, the winner of Best Score, Wild Connection.
I also just want to thank my crew. This was one of the biggest risks I've kind of ever taken in my career. We had less than 5 days to shoot this and was across the world in South Africa. And so it was a huge kind of gamble, but I'm just so pleased to be able to bring this film and show you guys and to shed light on conservation, but not only that, cheetah conservation.
But over time, I realized that the story wasn't over. The project was designed to be a proof of concept for a much larger film, if we felt that there was more to tell. I wanted to continue documenting cheetah conservation, especially the capture and release of Mara's cubs featured in the film. We planned out an entire feature-length idea and even submitted for a major National Geographic grant. Unfortunately, we didn't receive it, and tragically, Vincent van der Merwe, a key figure in the larger conservation story and film, passed away. His death was a huge loss for the conservation world. But despite all the setbacks, I decided to release Wild Connection on YouTube so the story could continue to reach people, and seeing how many of you have watched it, supported it, and resonated with it has meant the world to all of us. I learned so much about conservation through this process and about how filmmaking can help people see the natural world differently. What truly surprised me is how crucial these protected reserves are for cheetah survival. This wasn't just a cool shoot, it opened my eyes to the realities of modern conservation. It also reminded me of why I love filmmaking, stepping into the unknown, taking risk, and telling meaningful stories that make people see the world differently. So to everyone who's watched Wild Connection, thank you. Creating this 14-minute film was one of the biggest challenges in my career, and knowing it's resonating with people means everything to us. If you have any questions about the filming, the gear, the conservation, or anything about the doc, drop a comment below. I'd love to share more, and I might even create more videos just like this. And if you haven't seen Wild Connection yet, go check it out after this. And lastly, if you enjoyed this video, please hit subscribe as I'll be sharing many more journeys I've had as a documentary filmmaker.